Welcome to A Dark Path, a podcast exploring the depths of witchcraft, magic, the occult, and all things mysterious. Join us on this journey into the unknown, down a dark path overgrown. Find spells and rituals, folklore and legends. Come, set your candles alight to clear your mind and unwind. Delve into the shadows to uncover a dark path.
So excited to talk about blood magic and the moon and periods and water. It's going to be amazing.
Water
It's going to be
and blood
so
water.
feminine. It's going to bum out all the right people.
I love that. All
I'm
right,
really excited.
here we go. Welcome back to A Dark Path, a podcast exploring the depths of witchcraft, magic, the occult, and all things mysterious. We're going to be talking about moon and menstruation magic. I am Kristen Jackson, and a favorite moon quote of mine is from Frida Kahlo. I am the type of woman that if I want the moon, I'll get it down myself.
I'm Allyson Hemma-Romane, owner of Jupiter's Omens, and J.R.R. Tolkien once said, "Moonlight drowns out all but the brightest stars."
Am I introducing myself? I'm Heidi, owner and founder of Wise Wolf Craft, and my moon quote is from Oscar Wilde. With freedom, books, flowers, and the moon, who could not be happy? We are joined again today by the wonderful Justeen of Ostara Northwest to talk to you about moon and menstruation magic. Justeen, could you give us a refresher about you and your business?
My name's Justeen. I'm with Ostara Northwest. And I do birth chart readings online. You can book at ostaranorthwesttattoo.com. And I also do tattooing and ritual tattooing as well. I have been into astrology, since high school. So, wow, 20 years?
And do you call yourself a witch?
I do, a chaos witch. Okay, so my favorite moon quote is by M. Wonderland, and it's "The sun watches what I do, but the new moon knows all my secrets."
I really like that.
Like that.
Ooh.
So, as we said earlier, we're going to be talking about the moon. The entire moon cycle unfolds over approximately 29.5 days, a period commonly referred to as a lunar month. In the lunar month, there are 8 main phases of the moon. Each lunar phase offers us a chance to harness its transformative energies. Since the lunar month is cyclical, we will go ahead and start with the new moon. The new moon is entirely in shadow, and its surface appears dark, and it's virtually invisible to the naked eye. We move into the waxing crescent. It's a thin sliver crescent that begins to appear on the right side of the moon, and it's the first visible phase as the moon starts to grow larger. I always remember waxing. So, like when you light a candle and drip it onto something, that wax is adding to something else. So, waxing means getting bigger. So then we go into the first quarter. So the first quarter is half of the moon being illuminated, forming a clear right-hand semicircle. This is the halfway point between the new moon and the full moon. We move into the waxing gibbous. There's more than half of the moon is illuminated, but it's not quite full yet. The illuminated is such a hard word to say. The illuminated part continues to grow, covering the right side of the moon's surface. And we come to the full moon, where the entire surface of the moon is illuminated. It forms a big, bright, full circle in the sky, and it's the only time when the moon appears as a complete disk. Then we wane. So waning gibbous, the moon starts to shrink, and the illumination decreases on the right side, and there's still more than half visible in the sky, but it's definitely smaller than a full moon. Our last quarter, half of the moon is illuminated, forming a clear left-hand semicircle. It's the mirror image of the first quarter. Waning crescent, the moon continues to shrink, leaving a thin silver crescent on the left side. This is the last visible phase before returning to the new moon. I kind of, so growing up, with the waxing or the waning moon, that was always the thumbnail. So like we could always put up our thumbnail, and then depending on if it's your right hand or your left hand, you could figure out if it was waxing or waning. And just a little trick that we used to do
I
that I'd love
love
to share.
that.
Let's talk about moon phases and themes in magic. The new moon represents a fresh start, intentions or a reboot, waxing crescent, manifesting, hustle, and action. It's like bussin'. Uh, First quarter is balance, overcoming obstacles, and perseverance. Waxing gibbous, refinement, endurance, celebration. Full moon, fulfillment, gratitude, and reflection. Waning gibbous, release, let go, clear space. One of my favorites. Third quarter, balance, setting boundaries. And waning crescent, self care, recharge, and recuperate.
So your menstrual cycle also comes in phases. I think actually I like to begin describing with your menstrual phase, right? When you're menstruating, that's usually a 1 to 5 day period. Your energy levels are pretty low. You have a lot of hormone fluctuation going on. There's some physical discomfort. From that phase, you move to your follicular phase. That's going to be 6 to 14 days. It's actually one of the longest phases, or longer phases, I should say. Estrogen levels are high typically during this period. So your energy levels, motivation can increase during this phase, make you feeling a little more positive. And again, these are typical. So I think this is a good reflection. If this doesn't resonate for you, investigation. After your follicular phase, you ovulate. Usually, ovulation occurs in 1 day, right? But there is a period of time before and after where you can feel the effects of ovulation. Ovulation is your peak energy levels, your heightened energy. Most people are going to feel the most vitality during this time. Many women feel more social, more confident, and that's when you release your egg. Fun. And then in your luteal phase is after ovulation, right? That's the end of your period, end of your menstruation cycle. Your progesterone rises. Your energy levels are going to fluctuate during this period of time. Some people feel energized, but other people experience fatigue, irritability. Sometimes PMS symptoms come during this time because this is, as I said, the end of the cycle. So you're also reapproaching your period. So some people feel like the week before their period is where they sometimes feel the most of their menstrual side effects, right? And that's what this is speaking to. I'd also like to take a moment to speak about how our menstrual cycles sort of mirror our natural cycles through winter, spring, summer, and autumn. If you compare your menstruation to the winter, as when things are barren, when you have released, your follicular is when you're building, when you're creating, right? And then we get to ovulation, and this is the manifestation. This is when the egg is present, when it is released, it's your inner summer. And then in the luteal phase, this is about recovery, reflection, and preparing for winter.
And then I'd love to talk about menstrual phases and their themes in magic. So, menstruation and the theme in magic is letting go, rest, reconnect, surrender, nourishment, and inward energy. Next would be your follicular, which is increased motivation, productive, more energy, desire to exercise, and wanting to socialize. Ovulation is resilience, confidence, and flirty. Social time, increased focus, rise in libido, and high energy. And then lastly is luteal, increased appetite, desire to declutter and clean, self-care, inner critic heightened, and craving space. And I do want to add in on this theme here with magic and all of these phases, they are all extremely important, like completely important. So that heightened inner critic may sound like a negative thing, but I feel like that's like a positive to bring you back into the next phase, which is letting go. And then that kind of stuff. So every single phase, like even if you're at your lowest, you have to be there so that way you can be your highest high.
So what if I want to harness the moon's magical energies, but it's not the correct lunar phase? So like we talked about in our tools, correspondences, grimoires, and shadows episode, there are several correspondences to everything. Most things with a feminine or yin energy can be used as a lunar correspondence, especially things with a cooling effect. So the first thing that always pops into my head is like mint, peppermint, very cooling. Some examples of things that I use when I don't necessarily have the right moon present, or if I want to bring a little bit extra of that energy in. Moonstone. Maybe a bit of a cop out, but it's really easy. It's right there in the name. Moonstone. Silver is also really good. So you could use silver jewelry, bowls, spoons, candles, like anything silver. Some herbs that, some that I really use often, as well as just really enjoy. So lavender, jasmine, rose, mugwort, and milk thistle. Water. Water is always a good thing because the moon and the water, I mean, even scientifically, we know that it helps with the tides and things as well. So bringing in water can definitely help. Bonus points if it's literally moon water. There's also animals like the owl, wolf, bat, cat, crab, and dolphin. And tarot cards that can also represent the moon are the moon. Yes, there's a moon tarot card. And the high priestess.
Kristen, when you bring up the tarot cards of the moon and the high priestess, is it okay, like, if I ask a quick question of what those mean? Because I'm not familiar with tarot, and maybe some of the listeners aren't.
I mean, for those that are listening, I have an app on my phone that gives tarot card meanings. You can do like a daily draw and things like that. It's the Rider Waite version. So it has those images, but a lot of it does transfer because, the card's the card, the meaning's the meaning. And
Right.
then the intuition, of course, always plays a big role in it. The moon is a powerful and mysterious card that delves into the depths of our subconscious mind. It represents intuition, dreams, and the unknown. The moon shines its light on hidden truths and brings them to the surface, urging you to trust your instincts and listen to your inner voice. This card often signifies a time of uncertainty or confusion where things may not be what they seem. It reminds you to explore your emotions and your fears as they may hold valuable insight. While it can be a challenging card to navigate, the moon ultimately offers us an opportunity for spiritual growth and transformation by embracing the shadow within yourself. Trust in the guidance of this card as it leads you towards illumination and self-discovery. Then the High Priestess. The High Priestess. So the High Priestess is a card of mystery and intuition. She represents the deep inner wisdom that resides within each of us. When this card appears in a reading, it signifies a need to trust your instincts and tap into your subconscious mind. The High Priestess is associated with the moon, symbolizing the hidden aspect of our psyches that is waiting to be explored. This card encourages you to listen to the whispers of your intuition and pay attention to the subtle signs and symbols around you. Trusting your gut feelings will lead you on a path of self-discovery and spiritual growth. The High Priestess reminds you that there is much more beneath the surface than what meets the eye, and by delving into your own depths, you can unlock profound insight and wisdom. Tarot, there's always like the meaning behind it, but definitely, even as these cards suggest, your intuition is the strongest thing.
That's the Golden Dawn, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn traditional meaning. Just note that there are other schools of thought about them and use what resonates with you. Or use your
Yes,
intuition.
right.
So one of the things about moon and in astrology that you have a moon placement, everybody does. And what's really important about your moon placement is that it is the symbolization of your inner self, your intuition, your emotional thoughts. So think about it like your inside voice, if you will. Your moon sign is just as important as your sun sign. And I would beg to say almost a little bit more. As a menstruating person, you are automatically aligned with your moon sign. And so to hone in with and identify with your moon sign, I feel like is just as important as your sun sign and your rising sign as well. One of the other things that I truly think is informational and interesting is that there is correspondences within moon astrology. Like when I do birth chart readings, I will look at what the moon phase is in when you're born along with your moon sign. Because during a whole entire zodiac season in the sun, the moon will change in its zodiac signs throughout the whole entire season. So you could be anywhere from like a Scorpio moon to a Scorpio moon to Scorpio sun to all the way to the opposite of like a Scorpio sun to a Taurus moon. So if you're born on a new moon, you carry the characteristics of adventurous, enthusiastic, and creative. If you're born under a waxing crescent, you are seen and just kind of embody and You're seen as adventurous, ambitious, and productive. If you're born with under the first quarter, you're seen as capable, strong, and may sometimes need a little bit of extra motivation to follow through on your goals. Waxing gibbous, you're charismatic, compassionate, and a little bit indecisive. Full moon, it means that you're impulsive, energetic, and a little bit chaotic. Waning gibbous is highly self-aware, great communicators, have a hard time listening sometimes. Last quarter is loyal, sentimental, and has a hard time letting go of things. And waning crescent is imaginative, has unique perspectives, but can sometimes see that they have a difficulty forming close relationships.
I'm a waning crescent. That explains my relationship problems.
I'm a waxing crescent.
Waning gibbous.
And then Heidi, if she's born in 86, is a first quarter moon person. So in astrology, your moon placement is just as important as your sun sign because your moon sign is very indicative of your inner self, your emotional self, and honestly, your intuition. So people who are menstruating, honestly, your moon sign is just as much as a heavy hitter, if not more so than your sun sign.
Heavy hitter.
Right.
Oh my God. How many period puns are we going to have in here? I'm so excited about this game now. It's believed that based on the time of the month that you menstruate, it means different things about you or what type of person you are. So let's review a few of those. I find that this deeply resonates with me, so I'm wondering how many other people it resonates with. A new moon bleed with a full moon ovulation is connected to fertility of the earth and are ready to bring forth new projects or children. Fertility is not always procreation. A full moon bleed, new moon ovulation. You are a healer, a high priestess, or a shaman. Waxing moon bleed, waning moon ovulation. You are ready for transformation and growth. Waning moon bleed, waxing moon ovulation. Your life is becoming more peaceful and quieter. And just keep in mind that the time of the month that you menstruate does shift, just like the time of the month that the moon's phases occur, right? And so you may start off the year as a new moon bleed. For example, I did, right? Started off this year as a new moon bleed, and then I'm ending this year as a waning moon bleed. So just keep in mind it does change, which then kind of tracks your journey, right? It's just a fun way to see your character growth.
Well, why don't I just jump right into some period blood?
I would suggest diving,
Come
although
on
it is
in,
quite
down
viscous.
in. Time for a little spelunking, folks. Period blood obviously has magical correspondences. I also will take a moment during the segment to talk about how they do vary from traditional blood. And I would say they carry additional components opposed to one and the other. It's not that they don't have the components of typical blood, they have these additional components. When you use any type of blood in magic, you are drawing on power and life force energy, right? So this is not little time stuff. This is big time stuff. These are used typically in magics. Well, and this is the kind of things we want to talk about, right? It's used in magics for binding and loyalty, sacrifices and offerings, and curses and hexes, right? These are very common uses, but it's because of the level of connection you have energetically to wherever the source of blood came from and it being a life force element. Now, while period blood carries all of those components and you were able to do any of that work with that type of blood, anyhow, fertility and creation, healing, renewal. We reflect back on our moon energies, our divine feminine energies, and a lot of the magic around there is going to be integrated into period blood magic. So also your intuition and insight, and emotional releases, right? Transformation is a huge theme.
Transformation, right? Because you're moving from like one phase to the next, right? Like that's where it comes from, right?
Yes, cycles, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also I think it speaks to divine feminine nature as well, to be adaptable, to be malleable, but by yourself, like not necessarily that others necessarily are manipulating you, but to be able to conform to many situations and to be able to adapt and evolve to many situations.
So you can use the moon and her cycles as well as your own to set intentions and goals. Lunar magic. Let me pop this Mama Jamma open because I was not ready.
Oh,
So
the
lunar
little thingies?
magic.
The
Yes,
little
I
thing.
love the little thingies.
Good. I will actually I need to take a note now that we're here because I want to make sure that I add them to the thing.
We've spoken about it a ton. Pinterest is wonderful. We constantly use Pinterest for so many things. And there are some really cool like graphs and charts and infographics that people have already made that are on there. One of them that we've got today is lunar magic. So, I mean, we've kind of gone over it a lot, but like every phase has a different kind of energy or a different kind of focus. So, a new moon is new beginnings, a time for setting intentions, starting new projects, and planting the seeds for the future. It's a time of introspection and planning. The waxing crescent, so this is as it gets bigger, is growth, expansion, intent building, and is a good time to focus on manifesting goals and desires. The first quarter, so that's when it's split right in half between dark and light. This is for decision making, challenges, and taking action. It's a time to overcome obstacles and push forward with determination. The waxing gibbous, again, we're getting larger. We have most of the moon lit with still some remaining dark. This is a time for refinement, adjustment, and fine tuning. It's a time to review your progress and take any necessary changes to your plans. Full moon, of course, is completely lit. It's for completion, fruition, and fulfillment. It's a powerful time for manifestation, transformation, and releasing what no longer serves you. Now we're going back into waning, where we're getting smaller. Waning gibbous is gratitude, sharing, and dissemination. It's a time to express gratitude for what you have achieved and share your blessings with others. The last quarter, again, still getting smaller. We're now half light, half dark. This is a time for reflection, letting go, and forgiveness, a time to release what no longer serves you and to prepare for the new cycle coming. The waning crescent, we are now getting even smaller. This is a time for rest, recuperation, and surrender. It's a time to recharge your energy and prepare for the new beginnings of the next lunar cycle, which then brings us back to the new moon, and we continue. So that's good ways for using the moon and its phases to be able to harness those different energies and work with the cycle as well. So every moon has its own, gosh, I think of it as a personality. It's their own name, their own personality, their own like focus. So we start off with January. January is known as the wolf moon, sometimes known as the cold moon. The symbolism is survival and endurance. February is the snow moon, also known as the bear moon. Bear is in like the animal. Rawr. The symbolism is introspection. March is the worm moon, commonly known as the crow moon. This symbolizes fresh energy and new beginnings. April is the pink moon, often known as the egg moon. This one is for growth and rebirth. May is the flower moon, also known as the milk moon. This one symbolizes fertility. So June is the strawberry moon, sometimes known as the rose moon, and symbolizes the sweetness of life. July is the buck moon, or also known as the hay moon, symbolizing strength and vitality. August is the sturgeon moon, also known as the red moon, symbolizing abundance. September is the harvest moon, also known as the corn moon, and that symbolizes gratitude. October is the hunter moon, and this one's sometimes known as the blood moon, which is different than blood moons, which we'll go over a little later. The symbolism for the hunter moon is gathering your resources. We're heading into winter, we're gathering things up. November is the beaver moon, also known as the frost moon. This moon symbolizes hard work and preparation. And then rounding us out is December. December is the cold moon, also known as the oak moon. This symbolizes rest and reflection. Every month has its own moon. So let's say we're in May with the flower moon, you can do fertility. And I always want to say fertility isn't just making babies. You can have any kind of growth. Fertility is creative thoughts, creative ideas, putting a seed of an idea and making it grow. So fertility can be so much more than just let's make babies. You can pair that with, let's say, the full moon of that time would be different than, say, if you were to pair it with a waxing or a waning gibbous. So you can kind of dial in what your magic is, what your intent is with the different moon phases, as well as the day of the week, as well as the month moon itself. Now, I mentioned the blood moon. So, blood moon, the October hunter moon is sometimes also known as the blood moon. That is not the same as a blood moon, which can happen in any month. So, a blood moon is a total lunar eclipse which occurs when the Earth passes between the sun and the moon, which casts a shadow onto the moon. The moon typically appears reddish or kind of rusty colored. This is a good time. It's unveiling truth, helps with compassion, grounding, and a great time for shadow work. There's also a blue moon. Most people have heard, oh, once in a blue moon. Oh, he comes around every once every blue moon or something like that. Usually means very infrequently. The blue moon is a second full moon in a calendar month. So, for example, you have one full moon on the 1st and then one full moon on the 29th, 30th, right? So that's 2 moons in one month. They offer growth, wisdom, and new opportunities. There's also an eclipse. The eclipse is an obscuring of the light from one celestial body by the passing of another between it and the observer, or between it and its source of illumination. So that meaning it could be a planet. Different planets can also kind of have the effect of its eclipsing. So there's a bunch of fun stuff with that. The eclipse allows you the options for transformation, letting go of things that no longer serve you, renewal, and reflection.
So moon rituals, there's a couple different types. You can make moon water made under different phases of the moon, can be used for cleansing your home, watering your plants, making drinks. And then you can also use the moonlight to charge crystals and other magical tools and metaphysical tools, as well as other personal items. One thing that I usually do is I'll put my phone in there because I constantly have my phone on me. Another thing is moon baths, drumming, consecrations, journal and reflections, and yoga. You can also use these rituals in conjunction with the phase of within the phase theme. So an example would be a new moon is a really good time to do shadow work. And then also making drinkable moon water under a waning moon and drinking that the next day will help you release a lot of unwanted energies. But please be sure to use clean, drinkable water and put it in a closed, clear vessel. If you are leaving it out overnight, you don't want to get any special bugs or friends in there to add to that.
I think a good alternative is leaving it in your windowsill if you have a windowsill and just kind of doing the best with that, right? Some people don't have windowsills, Justine.
Okay, I was like, why have I not been doing that? Because I have windows. I'm one of the lucky people that has windows, but I've just been like, oh man, well, there's bugs in that, and picked it out and just hope for the best.
I mean, the ideal quote unquote is putting them outside under the direct moonlight and stuff, but some people don't have access to that, whether you live in an apartment or a high rise and you don't have a balcony, right? We make do with what we can. So if the weather's really gnarly, why go outside? Just put it in your windowsill.
We've been traveling together down a dark path. Now it's time to take a break and listen to some of our sponsors. A Dark Path will return after these messages.
Needing guidance on your dark path? Explore the mysterious world of Jupiter's Omens, offering handmade rituals, spells, and tools to focus your intention during spell work, vintage altar tools and decor, and intuitive tarot sessions utilizing claircognizance. Visit Jupiter's Omens, where the mystical and macabre meet, at jupitersomens.square.site. That's jupitersomens.square.site. Light the way on your dark path with Wise Wolf Craft's unique selection of tools for living with intention. From manifestation kits to altar items and divination tools, we have everything you need to connect with your inner wisdom. Wise Wolf Craft offers Reiki and other energy healing sessions, divination readings, and a variety of classes on topics like intuitive tarot and personalized spell work. Unleash the power within. Visit Wise Wolf Craft today online at wisewolfcraft.com and on Facebook and Instagram as @WiseWolfCraft. Wise Wolf Craft, tools for living with intention.
One of my things that I'm manifesting is that I'm going to have a home with, I'm going to put the water heater outside. And so that way, literally, it makes moon water every freaking night.
What? That's amazing.
I want to shower with moon water. Oh,
On that note, let's do a little blood magic education because I'm sure that'll be left in the episode. I don't know why, but I felt the need to include, like, anecdotally, my first introductions to blood magic, which are pretty wild. I mean, no, but I feel like they're regular, right? But like it's silly. That's what I mean. Not wild, silly. My first exposure as a concept of blood magic was the Bible and high fantasy, right? Seeing it in action, though, fantasized, was as a Death Knight in World of Warcraft. For you, maybe it was like a pirate movie. They're pretty famous for like doing blood oaths and or Viking films or things like that, right? Like blood oaths where they slice their hands open and all that. Practical Magic, the movie, also there's blood magic in there or something of the sort. It's kind of like popular in media, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Just because it's like flashy, right? It's very showy, very serious, very like high stakes. We will be doing a more intensive episode in the future on blood magic. That's a threat, not a promise. But for now, let's dip our toes in the pool of blood. Blood magic is magic based on the employment of blood or the symbolic power of blood. So it doesn't necessarily have to be blood used in the magic, but people who do blood magic would tell you that it's better if you do. Blood ritual is any ritual that involves the intentional release or letting of blood. The general consensus is that blood magic is powerful, very serious, and potentially dangerous magic. It's often sacrificial or summoning spells. However, I personally think this view was formed by legend, myth, and media influence.
So I think that it would really speak to like cultures, right? So
Yeah.
there are some places where they have for a very long time used blood to sacrifice and to honor deities or to create offerings to deities, right? Like there were groups in Central and South America. There are people who worship Orisha, I believe is how you say her name. She asks for sacrifice of animals like goats and chickens and that sort of thing. So, in a way, I do think that our view of it has been highly influenced by media and pop culture and things. But I think it's existed for a very long time. I mean, even with the rituals surrounding things like red tents, and there are types of shamanism that can only specifically be done with menstruating women. So, or menstruating people, I should say. So I agree that it's been highly influenced, but I also feel like there is a portion of blood in ritual magic that has been around for a very, very long time.
It feels sacred, but not like demonic.
Yes, actually.
Yeah.
So the shamanic magic I'm speaking of is like fertility magic, and like we were talking about beginnings of any kind, right? I think the deepness is the unifying thread with blood magic, right? Is that it's meant to be a very profound, deep thing.
So part of the depth of blood magic is that the idea is your blood carries the significant events that have impacted you in some way, as well as the connections that they have with one another, like the thread that ties the events of your life together. And it's kind of interesting because we've proven scientifically that significant life events do impact you physiologically or biologically, right? And we're still learning about all of the ways that that can happen. In general, it's felt that blood intensifies the power and intention of spells because of this. And also, it's the most personal offering that anyone can give. It symbolizes you in the most absolute, intimate way possible and provides a real world tie of your spell to you and your life experiences.
We, as like menstruating people, you do not have to cut yourself. Do not cut your hand open to do blood magic. That is a unnecessary thing. We have a very reliable source of blood coming that you can use for magic. That's something you should consider. I really think you need to be deeply considering any time You are being asked to let blood. That is a big deal. You need to deeply consider the source. You need to be checking in with your highest self. I can't speak to other people's experience. That's not a practice that I participate in. So, food for thought. Also, some magic asks you to consume or, take blood into your system. Now, that in itself is a dangerous thing, right? You need to know a lot of information considering bloodborne diseases, STDs, all sorts of things before that would be a safe practice. And I would argue that you could do that for yourself through medical testing, but it would be very difficult to determine someone else's safety levels without having access to their medical records, right? So we just be aware, use your head, and don't do anything you're uncomfortable with. Blood magic should never be forcible. You should always have consent, even if it's just with your highest self. I feel like that, does that feel like we covered it? Does that, anybody have anything they want to add? Because I feel like it's very important we talk about it.
I also had here on how to catch your menstrual blood in order to use it in blood magic with 2 suggestions. But if you have more, Heidi, take it away.
No, I think those are, and I will say the suggestions were a menstrual cup or bath water, which I think are both great suggestions. And again, depending on the nature of what you plan to do, you could also just place a cloth in your pad, right? Or if you use cloth pads, done. Because sometimes you just need to have it out, right? You don't necessarily need the liquid form. You also can take that and dry it and have powdered form, which is a little bit easier to work with in different situations. And of course, you can reliquify it. You can hold bigger quantities and not have to worry about the smell as much. There's some benefits to going through that process. Because obviously, if you're storing blood and it's not air safe, eventually it will smell, right? Because it's a product of the body and it's going to deteriorate. So that's something to consider. So we use blood magic in a ton of different ways. I think it's funny because it's one of those things that feels so foreign, but as I was raised Catholic, so I was raised with blood magic. There's a thing called the transubstantiation in my church, or my old church, I should say, that they believe in the literal changing of bread and body, to end wine to blood. So you're drinking blood every week at Mass. And it's because it is one of the most deep, profound connections you could have to Creator, right? Is the mentality there. So it's funny because we're like, oh, blood magic. And I'm like, ooh, it's happening in like 5 places in Marysville every Sunday. What was that, Justine?
It's in your local tattoo shops too, without like the heaviness of it.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. It's much more common than we realize. So we actually already kind of spoke briefly on how there are indigenous menstruation huts, and that's common in many different cultures across the land. We we have stories of like red tents, but the shamanism that I was referring to is actually part of the South and Central American cultures that practice jaguar medicine. But it's a common theme, which is that period of time is sacred, and that period of time is unique, and that when you go through that phase and that cycle, that it is a unique it has a unique role in life energy and in magical working. Since we decided to start researching this, I'm feeling called. And again, I mean, like I did, I guess, practice blood magic as a child in church, but that wasn't really how I viewed it. But I am feeling drawn to like the interesting elements of healing and protection and charging sigils. These last 3 I was looking at because I could see how powerful it would be to use your blood for a protection symbol. You're using your literal life force energy to protect yourself, charging a sigil with that same level of power, right? And as a menstruating person, having access to a load of it all the time, well, not all the time, but specific times, feels like it would be easy to integrate. It would be a great way to like embrace your divine feminine. And I feel like that alone would be probably really healing because so many of us have these shadow things that are associated with femininity that has been designated taboo or bad, right? And so, like, to integrate something like menstrual blood into your magic could be incredibly healing and empowering, especially considering that our ancestors have used it for healing. Hey, you know what? I forgot one note here. I love this, though. It just literally says plant food.
I'm pretty sure you suggested that. And I was like, okay, we'll throw it in there.
Well, no, and but it's super true. So like you can add blood to water, right? And then give it to your plants like fertilizer because it does have nutrients and elements and stuff. And it's, you obviously, like any animal or living thing, plants need a variety of elements. You can't continuously give them the same thing. They need to have a balanced diet. But it is one way to integrate your magic into your environment.
I don't remember where I heard this. I know it was in some witchy book somewhere, and I don't have any like supporting evidence, but I had read that Celts would have their menstruating women dance over their fields. Like, so it would be like a constant thing in the moonlight or like at night, right after the sun went down. So, like, the fields would be like, there's this image of like the fields being red, and then by the time the sun comes up, they're not anymore. Very interesting stuff. And it's a very romantic image that I love of like femininity and menstruation and fertility, right? It's so interesting. Everyone's nodding their head. Listeners can't see that, but everyone's like, yes, Allie, keep going.
So when are we?
When are we doing that? Oh, that's an excellent question. Do you have a field, Justine?
I don't.
Can I
Someone
just
else
throw out
might.
there? I
Once Heidi
literally.
gets her property, we're gonna all just run up and down the 35 acres, just like free bleeding, and then it's gonna be the most magical plot of land.
Or if you want to do it
I
sooner, Kristen has a strawberry bed out front of her house.
My neighbors will be fine. It's okay.
I am completely outraged, just so you know, considering so few podcast conversations ago, I tried to convince you guys to dance naked in the woods and I got so much feedback. And now here we are running around free bleeding, which we're not having pants on, right? Like, come on.
We can still wear dresses. We
How
don't have
about
to be nude.
skirt?
You're Oh, okay. That's not the
no
picture I had in my head.
No, I'm not
Yeah,
running around naked free bleeding with you,
I
Heidi.
thought you guys were pantsless.
No.
I thought that you guys pantsless running around
Donald
free
Duck.
bleeding. I was like, how could you do that and not dance naked in the woods? What is happening? Like, what on earth? And I was like, so I thought I got it, and I don't get it.
I wouldn't be Donald Duck. I'd be more shaped like Pooh Bear.
Oh,
Daisy
We
Duck.
could all
Run
be
with the
one
honey.
night. We could all just have one giant unified period and just, oh my God. Or we could dance for everyone's period and dance all night every
Yeah.
single
That's
night.
the one I like. Yes.
Oh my God. And whoever's on their period is the only one who's naked.
Justine can teach us how to twerk again. We can have like a twerk fast. Get closer to the ground,
Sprinklers.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, guys, that was so good. Thank you. From our conversation earlier, Allison, I'm number one. I'm ovulating on the full moon right now.
Oh.
But I just switched. I was in the priestess mode and then
Yep.
switched to this, which I'm like, I'm okay with it.
I feel like
It's a new
that's on
shit.
brand. Speaking of priestess, let's have Justine talk to us about blood magic and tattoos.
I'd love to. Okay. So one of the things that, like, as a tattoo artist, just in general, it's always been something that I've felt called to do is take it extremely seriously, not just like tattooing somebody's body because it's going to be like, on them forever. Like, that's a big thing that I will say to my clients is like, if you want a tattoo moved an inch or a centimeter, please do, because it's going to be on your body for longer than honestly you're animating it. Like, when you're gone and your soul has left, your body still has this tattoo. So I take that extremely seriously. The other thing too is like, just historically speaking, tattoos originate from like types of storytelling. So certain people and tribes would get tattoos to say what jobs they had or what familial line they came from. Another big one is about life phases. So thinking about like moon phases and stuff like that. There are cultures that I know the Maori, if you ever see a Maori person who has their full entire lips tattooed black, in order to achieve that tattoo, like even to present day, they have to be fully fluent in the Maori language. So there's like certain things with each of these tribal tattoos, which is another really big thing that I feel like I could go on a tangent for. Always research your tattoos. Even if you feel called to get a specific tribal tattoo, do your research, because these tattoos may have a really cool significance to you, which is fine, but please don't ever disrespect a culture and the amount of work and spiritual work they would have to do in order to get these tattoos. Standing off my soapbox on that. Another big thing too that it has been historically done and is now starting to resurface as a newer or revamped, if you will, is ritual tattoos. Specific tattoos that are created to put on a person's body that will help protect them, cleanse them, balance them, those kinds of things, depending on what this person's soul may need. That is something that I do. I do create my own vine runes just because of like my own like historical lineage and my own familiarity with it, along with other types of sigils and things. Another big thing about tattoos is like, this is not me ever dogging on another artist, because I don't subscribe to that. Lowering another person does not make me higher by any means of the sort. But my own personal view is that I am entering a person's bloodstream when I tattoo them. There is a written consent form, as every tattoo you get should have, by the way. If they don't, that's a red flag, please leave. But I do go through a verbal consent with them as well, because I take this extremely seriously. Like, that is to me a type of blood magic that I am performing on a person. So when a client will come to me sometimes with tattooing, they'll talk and they'll start opening up, and I know it's coming because, one, I've been doing this for a little while, but also when people release blood in a tattoo situation, it is a physical trauma to the body. You are releasing blood. It is bloodletting. But there is no outside response in your emotional brain to say, why am I doing this? So then the emotional part comes out, which again, it's bloodletting, it's emotional letting, all that. And it doesn't matter if you're female, male, non-binary, it just happens like as a human being. And that to me is so sacred. It is beyond sacred. And I want to honor every single type of person that comes to me for a tattoo, because you are allowing me and my energy when I tattoo you, especially if it's a flash piece that I've drawn myself, to have my art enter not just you and your body and your blood, but also your historical bloodline from past to also potential future if you do decide to procreate.
Such an awesome explanation. And it's always some of my best like meditative experiences have been during like really long tattoo sessions.
It really is. And it's so common because people are like, wait, I'm not sure, like, why do I feel like, a lot of people will say like, well, my tattoo artist is my therapist, right? There's some tattoo artists who don't resonate with that type of experience. That can be like a lot for them. But for me, I personally love it. I'm like, yes, please, like, spill your blood and your thoughts. Let's get it all out on the table,
Now, with the tattooing, let's say, they bleed for a while afterwards. It's an open wound that has to heal. With the ink that's in there and things like that, do you think that people could use that for a blood ritual or like some kind of magic at home if they were to collect that?
And I would add, how could they collect it safely?
Okay, so that's a really, 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 really good question. So this is something that I would not personally suggest that people do, because ingesting ink, while I know it's in your bloodstream, you never know how something's going to react orally as it would just to the direct like bloodstream, if that makes any sense, how you would metabolize that. If somebody wanted to use it and collect it in a way to use it for like drawing rituals or sigils or things like that, like non-consumption, what I would suggest is like when I do aftercare, I put Tegaderm, which is a thin plastic film over the tattoo, so that way all the plasma that's let out stays over the skin, and the ink and the plasma and the blood seep all into that. What I would suggest if somebody wanted to use it for non-consumption would be to, when you're ready to remove said bandage, poke a small hole because there will be a small bubbling effect of this plasma, blood, and ink, and then squeeze that into a airtight or a container that could be air sealable. And then that's how you do that. And then you would go about the same process of like removing the plastic piece and washing your skin and making sure that you're doing all of this with gloves on, please. Please, please, please. And if this is your intention, like let's say we're getting, you're coming to me getting a tattoo and this is what you want to do, tell me. I will give you gloves. I will verbally walk through this with you. Like, it may not be my cup of tea, but who am I to stop somebody from doing what resonates with them?
I want to know before we close out the episode that you can have stuff mixed in with your blood. That's okay. So like if it's like a healing ointment for your tattoo or your bath water or like whatever it is, that's totally fine. It's not going to like change the effectiveness of your spell. Just be conscious of like the herbs that you're using if you're doing like a bath, right? Ideally, you would want the water to be plain, in my opinion, or something that would boost the energy of your blood. But most people, when they're doing blood magic, do mix it with water so that it's not so. I keep using the word viscous because I feel like that's the best one, but I also keep thinking of the word chunky. So, so
Yeah.
it's not so like thick, you know? And then, like Heidi was saying, people do dry it out. It's a lot easier to work with then. You can make it into a powder. You can make it into a powder, a
Sure.
powder.
I think you just channeled your ancestors.
I might have, yeah. You can use your dehydrator, make it into a powder. Use disposable stuff when you're doing that though, so that it's because that's not, you don't want your blood touching food stuff. Put it in a jar, things like that. It can be mixed with things. Don't worry about that.
Not the part for me is like, ew, it's gross, you know? For me, I'm like, okay, blood, cool, whatever. I have this weird thing where if it's somebody else's blood, no big deal. But if it's my blood, I'm like, no, no, that stays inside of me. What the heck? And then with like the menstrual blood, I'm like, oh my God, there's like chunks of my like uterus on this. Why do I want to touch that? So
Yeah.
I have some problems with that. However, I really enjoy like towards the end of my period when it's not quite as it's like just kind of the lingering blood bits and it's not like chunky baths, like doing the baths. I typically will do like a divine blend or like a high priestess kind of blend and do like the bath salts with that. And I'm totally okay with that. But if anybody has that weird like feeling like me where I'm just like, "Ugh, nope, gross, get it, nope." Like maybe that's a way for you to do it is just kind of lightly in the bathtub.
There's also people collect and then strain their period blood and then use it for paintings, right? That's
I
super
always
cool
want
to
to tell
me.
people though, like it's from our body, it will decay. So if you are doing anything where you want it to last, be aware that there's a very high possibility that it's going to start smelling like something's dying in your painting, or it is it's our life force. It's real, it's alive. It can start to degrade, deteriorate, and smell real bad. So with all of our knowledge that we've now talked about menstruation, using our blood for our magics, as well as tapping into the moon and femininity and healing. We want to go ahead and thank our listeners for coming along this wild, crazy, fun journey with us. And Heidi, thank you so much for joining us as always as one of our demi-permanent hosts.
Thank you so much for having me. I love being a part of this, particularly when I get the chance to talk about my period with people.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't know what happened, but like since I've reinvented myself, I've gone a little feral and I talk about like bodily functions and like healing and stuff like really openly. So it's really fun to be able to talk about menstruation on a public platform, especially with three of my favorite human beings. Speaking of the third, thanks, Justine, for coming to join us again. It's amazing to have you. I love listening to you talk about stuff, and it's fun to see you get excited about things that I love, like the moon and tattoos.
Thank you so much for having me. I love coming back to this whole entire platform. I mean, also same, love talking about my bodily functions just openly because let's be real, we're all human. But no, I really do and have always loved just talking about my period with people.
I'm passionate. It's like in business, like corporate business meetings, when they're like, I'm passionate about word processors. We're like, I'm passionate about my period. You can follow Heidi on socials at Wise Wolf Craft. You can follow Justeen at Ostara Northwest. That's OSTARANW. And then you can follow us at A Dark Path Podcast.
We are always looking to connect. If you have topics you'd like us to discuss, questions, or just want to get to know us, please email us at adarkpathpodcast@gmail.com. Again, that is adarkpathpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you everyone for joining us on this journey down a dark path.
It is now that our time together must come to an end. Thank you for joining us on this journey, a dark path come to a bend. Find us here bi-monthly on your favorite place to stream, and follow us on social media for news in between. A dark path is there, winding and waiting ever. May you craft peace, knowledge, and alignment, so shall it be, or something better.